Thank you, Dan. All right, so welcome to my talk, API Automations for Security Engineers, Tales of an API Consumer. We're going to take a retrospective look at some of the key moments in my career that led me on the path of learning and using APIs, and that ultimately led to a passion for exploiting and securing APIs. So at the end of this, I hope you are encouraged to maybe get into API security if you're not already, or maybe I'll give you some ideas of what to do next. Number one, first, who am I? My name is Brett Jenson. I also go by Drastic. Officially, I'm the team lead of penetration testing. I affectionately refer to myself as the red team lead. I work for Wellstar Health System out of Marietta, Georgia, which is just north of Atlanta. I'm also an upcoming AppSec University instructor, like we kind of touched on before, and I'll talk about it a little bit more later. I don't have a lot of socials. I do have a Mastodon, and I also have LinkedIn. That's just my name. So hit me up there if you have any questions. First off, as a disclaimer, the opinions and views expressed in this presentation are my own, do not reflect the views of Wellstar Health System affiliates or other employees. All right, so the first thing I want to do is give you a little background on how I got started with APIs. My journey began technically on a training for one of our tool platforms. We made a handful of calls via Postman, and we touched briefly on the Python integration for that tool. Really, though, it came from a failed professional services engagement with that vendor, and I'm not going to name the vendor for obvious reasons, but I did not feel that the deliverable was accurate, nor did I believe that our expectations were met. So I kind of took matters into my own hands. I got approval from my boss to take a little time to learn Python in depth. Had a little bit of knowledge, but I wanted to learn it, really in depth. That included also dissecting the official Python library and learning the request module in and out. The next thing that I did was just attack the project. Even though I hadn't practiced a whole lot outside of the projects that were in the course, I wanted to attack this project and just learn by doing. So project number one, at the time we were waking up at 4 a.m. Me and another one of my coworkers were waking up, alternating on Fridays, waking up at 4 a.m. to run the reports to possibly have time to create our metrics for later in the day. I decided I was tired of doing that. And, after this failed professional services engagement with them trying to help us solve this problem and it not being accurate, I decided I was just going to automate it myself. So I took the time, I learned how to run the reports, and all I did was I found the report IDs of what we were already running at 4 a.m. and I just started running them automatically using a scheduled task in Windows and a Python script to kick off those reports, wait, and download those reports. And by the time we came in, typically those reports were done and we were able to go ahead and get everything done much faster. All right, key takeaways from that. Easiest way to learn is to have a project you're passionate about and then just go for it. In this case, fury was greater than passion in this case. I was not happy with that professional services engagement. So it really lit a fire under me to get this done and learn how to do it myself. And I've actually taken that in more of our with more of our tools and just kind of learned to do things myself so that I don't have to rely on professional services. Once you get started, it's going to be super easy to keep going down that path of learning. So just take that first step. Don't let the anxiety, the fear of learning get in your way. There are now tons of free resources, and I have one coming that will help you get off the ground from a foundational perspective. And then from there, you can just build up your learning and figure out how to do this stuff. Project number two, this same application. I worked with the same application a lot. So this application had no uploads for filters. So I could not do a file upload and let's say a list of host names and then create some sort of filter based on that. We had to do manual entry in the GUI, which is obviously super clunky and cumbersome. You have to add each new filter. And if you have thousands of entries that you want to create a filter on, we're talking at least 3 seconds if you are spot on as fast as you possibly can. So for 1,000 entries, best case, we were talking 50 minutes of just creating filters. I am not that kind of guy. I don't like doing all that manual stuff. And so I developed a tool that we commonly refer to as the tagger command line tool. It takes a CSV input, single column of IPs, host names, or ranges, all 3, and then we'll dynamically generate a filter list based on all of the those items that you put in there. And it could be a mixed assortment too. It could be an IP on line 1, a host name on line 2, and a range on line 3. And the script will handle dynamically creating that filter list. And then it'll create an asset group or a tag based on the filter that you used by using the API. So we're talking, instead of 50 minutes, it takes, sometimes in the neighborhood of like maybe 10 seconds if it's a really big list. But yeah, this has saved us so many times and saved us a ton of time and a lot of efficiency. The key takeaways here are that IPs, you can actually use them to extend capabilities and efficiencies within your team. And again, projects that you're passionate about or that are going to help you in the long run, help save you time, they're worth learning and worth doing. And also, I would say get really good at reading Swagger docs, because this project right here tested me a lot. But once I actually understood everything about the Swagger docs and could properly interpret everything, I was golden. Project number 3 was my largest project to date. The manual process included all of these steps. I had to run 2 reports in the console, download, summarize the information in those reports based on like 6 criteria. I had to zip the reports up into a single file, create an email, copy boilerplate info, insert that summary, format the email, attach the zip, and then send to the respective owner. And I believe it started out with 12 times that I had to do that. And then it evolved up to like 17 times. And I'm not that kind of guy. I'm lazy. I like to take that time and save it, do other things. So I broke it down into a 5-part problem. It started with reporting, zipping the folder, email. I wanted to do it in a multi-threaded fashion, so it was very fast. And then owner management. Now, only 2 of those things really are affected by APIs. The reporting aspect was very similar to the last the last 2 projects that I worked on, or no, the first project that I worked on. So I already kind of had an idea and some boilerplate code that I could reuse. And then I just had to thread it and just make sure that it wasn't going to impact the API, that the rate limiting that was fine, and that we weren't going to take anything down by running this script. Turns out everything's great. It went fine. And every single time we executed it, it saved me over 2 hours. I'll say right around 2 hours every time that it was executed. And the only management that I really have to do with it is managing that owner management script. This is awesome because it also turns out that laziness can lead to learning opportunities. I love being lazy because I have found major efficiencies. The other thing is, do that project. Even if you don't think your current capability, you're currently there from a capability perspective, keep in mind at this point, I still don't think that I would have considered myself really good at APIs. But it was something that I was able to I could get this done. And I probably learned the most in this project. The last thing is multi-threading is sick. When I was doing my initial, doing all of my initial work on the script, it was taking forever because it would only run 1 report at a time, and so each group had 2, and so when you get 24 reports, it's taken forever. When I was able to multi-thread it, I was able to run every single report all at one time, and it would monitor it and download everything for me. It was great. Saved a ton of time, and they used it for a while. And now we have moved on to bigger and better business intelligence type ways of handling this situation. But again, huge learning opportunity for me and saved us a ton of time over the years. Now let's get into something that's a little bit more pen testy, offensive security. So I don't know if anybody remembers, but back in September of 2022, teams used to store authentication tokens in the clear text SQLite database. I don't even think it was given a CVE, but there were a lot of posts about it. And some of the researchers posted a blog about it, and it was lacking a lot of information. Microsoft was like, we don't think it's a big deal. So they didn't do anything about it for a long time. But my leadership wanted proof of exploitation. And so that's kind of where it came to me. It actually came from our Vuln team. They escalated this, and I just decided to take a quick look and see what I could do. So I established a proof of concept here. I wanted to be able to, and I put in quotes, harvest a token and use that token to read write chats on behalf of that particular user. I set it up into 3 separate steps. The first one was to use my token just to make sure that I could get the API working. This was, I'll touch on it in a minute, but at the time, Microsoft was actually using their GraphQL as their primary API, but there were some old Skype, Teams, legacy REST API endpoints out there that were still working, and that's what we leverage here. Then I actually got my boss to grab his token and send it to me, just as a way to test. And then I wanted to do a little bit of automation. I wasn't going to put a whole lot into it because I really just needed to prove the point. So this first step was using my token, and I'm going to call this the read step. So again, I found an old REST API. There were some traces of it in the blog, but I did have to do some additional working to make everything work for me. They preferred to use the GraphQL API at the time. So I don't know if it was a forgotten API or they just hadn't turned it off, or it still needed functionality for some reason. But I was able to identify the correct endpoint, and it took a little while, took a little bit of hacking away. But I finally got a 200 success and grabbed all of my conversations at one time. Then I did a little bit more research, and I realized you have to use the chat ID, which comes in this format. X's are the alphanumeric string distinct to the chat specifically, whereas the 2 somethings over here are related to the type of chat, right? So if it's a meeting, it'll have meeting dot something. If it's a one-on-one channel, etc., there's a lot of different types, but those are just some examples. You grab that whole string, and that is how you can read. That's how you can actually read specific conversations. So you would make the same call, but with the chat ID as a parameter, and it would return all of the information from that chat. So that was cool. That was a really, really big one. And then I turned to writing because that was part of the next step. And I wanted to make sure that I could write using my token. So I did a post to the URI and added a chat ID, and I got a 201 created. And I was like, awesome, that actually worked. I flipped over to Teams, and it was the wrong chat ID. I put in the wrong chat ID, unfortunately. I had grabbed the wrong value, and I ended up having to delete it really quick, but I ended up getting it to work after that. So this was a huge success, and I was amped. It was great. It was awesome. And I was just hoping. I was hoping that my boss's his token had not expired yet. And so I kick off the exact same request, or I did a read first to get the chat ID that I was looking for using his token. Perfect, 200. Did a post with the URI and the correct chat ID created. And that you could see my first comment, as always, is hack the planet. And I told him I got it to work, and so I can impersonate him. And everybody on my team kind of freaked out a little bit, and it was a good time. Good times were had. One thing I did not put in here is I actually found a secondary issue. There was another API endpoint where, based on a different ID, you could actually generate a brand new Skype token. So even if it had expired, I was actually able to just generate a new one based on his account if I needed to. So that was really cool. I was able to escalate this to my leadership, and it was kind of like right on it. Everybody was trying to figure out how we could monitor this, and I don't remember how long it took for us to, for it to not become an issue for us anymore. But and I haven't tested it, recently, but this was just a really good time. And I would not have gotten there had it not been for all of the time that I had spent learning how to use APIs, learning the anatomy of an API, and really just diving in to each one of these concepts. So this was the automation step. And I only put screenshots in here, and I have redacted names. This first one is a chat that I read from the CISO and myself. I thought that was going to be really cool, just to show him that I was able to just pull down all of our chats. And then also one of our big departmental meetings is this all hands information security department meeting. So that's a really big one. There's sometimes confidential information that gets put in there. Obviously, I've cut everything off and made sure none of it was bad. I've also protected everyone's names who were a part of these chats. But once I showed the output of this Python script that I wrote that quickly automated all of this, it really drove home the point, I think. So that was probably one of the most fun times that I've had. So key takeaways from this was, again, strong foundation using APIs as a consumer led me to the exploitation of a known issue with no published POC code. I had a development background already, but learning Python more in depth led me to help lead me to create that POC. But it never saw the light of day. We just kind of stopped it there. I probably should have done something with it, but I did not. But the biggest thing was I had a ton of fun when doing this. It was kind of one of those things where, somebody else did the research, and I could have just been like, somebody else did it, don't need to worry about it. But because my leadership was asking for it, I decided to put my head down. I read the time on some of these, or if you go back, you can actually read the time on those messages that I got the exploit, and it was like almost 11 o'clock at night. So I had been working since like 12 to like 10 p.m. or almost 11, and finally got it. So really cool opportunity, really cool time. So this is what we were talking about before. I took this directly from my title slide. I am creating a course that's going to kind of mimic this process of learning. It's project-based. Like, I'll go over the basics, the anatomy of an API, the basics of Python, all of the foundational stuff that anyone would need to start their journey with working with an API. And then I have 5 labs of little things that you can create. And it's not a couple of them are like, here's how you do a couple of very basic things, but I wanted to kind of tailor it more towards security. So if when this comes out, which hopefully will be soon, I'm almost there. I hope everybody takes it, and I hope it works out well for you. One last joke. My wife was in the room with me. I was kind of just, sitting in our bedroom when all of this was going down and I was doing this exploit. And this was the first time that she had ever seen me like beside her actively hacking at anything. And she told me, she's like, I thought hacking was this, right? Well, it turns out hacking is more like this. And she was not nearly as impressed with me anymore. She just was like, yeah, okay. You just do it normally. So last thing, hack the planet, and time for questions.
Yeah. Aren't you supposed to wear a dark hoodie and be in a dark room? And you're totally like messing up the hacker culture, dude.
I am. Just sitting in bed with my wife. That's what it is.
I had no idea. Super fun presentation here, Brett. And I think speak for a lot of people, like that is a course that I can't wait to see. I think there's going to be a lot of people really eager to check it out. Lisa, you got some good one-liners here. Just take the money now. Like, like, holy cow. So what was it? You impersonated other users on MS Teams? That's what you were able to do?
Yeah, I was able to send messages as my boss, my manager. So if you think like the potential attack chain here, it's not easy to get, or it's not that difficult to get a user to click something. You could either mine out that token and send it back on a reverse shell to you, or do something. And I'm specifically thinking targeting a CISO or targeting the CEO, and then sending a message on their behalf saying, approve this transfer to this organization, this bank number. Classic Teams phishing. So
amazing.
That's how we got their attention.
And Lisa, you're on fire today. Did you give yourself a raise?
I wish. I did get a promotion out of it. That's why I'm the red team lead now.
I'm dating myself. Does anybody remember War Games when he used to change his grades, right?
Yep.
And Emil, yeah, I love how in the movies there's always like password cracked. It's some sort of like big like pop-up message or something like that. Yeah, no, I love it. Well, one of the things that people seem to really resonate with in your talk is laziness and the power of laziness, right? There are a lot of comments in here. Sure feels like lazy is the mother of invention or something like that.
Yeah, I mean it's served me well. I don't know how many times I couldn't count on both of my hands how many times I've talked to my boss and been like, I'm not doing that. That's just tedious. Like, let me figure out a different way of doing that.
And you cracked me up with the impersonation thing. I'm remembering probably 20 years ago, impersonation looked like this. Remember, my boss waited for one of my colleagues to go on lunch when he left his laptop open. So he went on his laptop and sent an email from the employee to the boss saying, I hate you, I quit. And then he went back to the boss's laptop. Sorry, well, go see Sheila in HR and we'll take care of that. The sneaker net version of impersonating, I guess. But at any rate, let's see what we got here from Bo. What you got? Our CEO is not allowed to request anything himself for security reasons. Only legitimate requests will come from other. Yeah,
that's actually a part of the recommendations that I made, the long list of recommendations. The other thing is don't use Electron apps. They're not very secure typically. So
oh my goodness, Shelby. Shelby, I'm going to put you on stage here any second now. I'm going to do it. I'm going to put you on stage.
Yeah.
Hey, there you are. Hey, everybody.
I sat up so you couldn't see me laying down.
No. You're always professional.
Exactly. Always ready to go.
Well, we have. I'll let you relax now here, Shelby. Oops, there we go. So we now have a break. So Brett, thank you so much, man.
No worries.
You are the man, and we can't wait for your course, and grateful for you